amount of things I had to go through in order to set it up properly. And just say hi, okay, so that I can know uh, that you are there with me. And I'm going to post the link to you guys. It's a private link, so anybody outside the group cannot join this. Okay, please join. Say hi. So the first 5 minutes goes into these you know just bringing all of the people on the platform. So anyway, uh, the more we get accustomed to it, because we should be actually getting more accustomed to online mediums of teaching, um, because in upcoming days I think the physical interaction needs will be very limited. Whatsoever is the case, let me just shut off the door for a while. Well, so uh, let's get going with the objective of today's class. So what we will do today is we will try to see how we can enhance image which we have clicked, and I have arranged downloaded all your images and kept it inside this folder demo, and I'll be using these images. I did not select it out of any I don't have any logic behind selecting it. It's just a random pick I have done from this list of posts. um, and as we go along, I'm also gonna just talk about the individual quality of the images a little bit, not quality in terms of the number of pixels it has or how much clarity it has, but primarily the compositional aspect of it a little bit, maybe how the light could have been more effectively utilized. And there are something which we actually could have controlled while clicking the image, but we sort of overlooked that. There may be plenty of reasons for that, but if we are consciously tapping on a button which is gonna click an image, we should feel responsible about tapping on that button, right? So that's the whole purpose of it. Now the accidental mistakes is fine, but unintentional mistakes is something which we need to really train ourselves for. While I believe, let's me quickly check how many people have joined. Okay, so that's good. So many of them are here already. Hi everyone, good to see you guys here. Well, so I'm gonna switch back to our demonstration, and the first thing I'm gonna do is just let's quickly go through these images and understand what can be done, what cannot be done, and what should we try to at least make an attempt to do it, because it is worth doing it. Now whoever clicked this image, I forgot the name of the person because I told you that I have randomly picked these images. um, it's a really interesting composition, and what really catches my attention, uh, like at the very first look of it, the first thing which comes to my mind is that how is it possible? So it looks quite surreal, and I'm still struggling with uh, what and how is it possible to capture such a bright sun, and it looks quite surreal. So I'm gonna just um I really need an you know explanation for it. So how is it possible that such a bright source, light source, ambient light source is there on the sky, and the ground is so dark? So that is a dilemma which it puts me in. I don't know how it was made possible. So I'm gonna let's move to the next image, but this is a really nice image. um, and we really have to understand how this was clicked. Anyway, so let's go to this one, the next one. What I liked about this image is that It has this a watercolor sort of effect, but also has a very abstract meaning behind it. And it's gonna change its perception depending upon an individual. uh, I may look at it and think of something totally different, and somebody else can look at it and feel totally different, uh, which is a nice quality about the image, that uh, there is some objectivity to it. I can see that in the foreground the grill is there, and it sort of gives me a feeling of a case, a foundation. And on the outside, when I see there is a huge massive building, maybe I guess the feel of it shows that it is under construction, because I can see this, so some construction work is going on. So there is this uh, structure popping out from the top of it, looks like a crane or something. And then in the back, in the far background, right on the horizon, we have these faded uh, sort of blocks, which definitely is building. Um Really, takes me to a place where I feel lost in the city. This is what I see in this image. And if somebody asked me that what can we do further in the post production, I would say do not do anything in the post production, because the 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 essence of this image is its originality. And I wouldn't even try to retouch the image, or even the frame is also very much perfect. Yeah, so this is a good image. Yeah, it's a good image. So let's next move to an image. Now this image really intrigued me, and the first thing which catches my attention is this dark shadow. you know right before the subject, I am more dragged towards this bold presence of a dark sharp shadow on the water. So this tells me a lot about the lighting condition. The first thing is that I can see shadow underneath this uh, boat yacht. I don't know what exactly it is called, but I can also see that shadow is almost falling right at the bottom of the objects, and it's very harsh. So this image is shot right in the middle of the day. That's the first thing. Second thing is that wherever this image is shot, at least it has a clear sky, and that I can tell because I have reflection of clouds in the water as well. And the water is uh, almost still, and that's the reason we do not have any reverberation in the shadow. There is no ripple happening, but uh, and it's a still body of water, so that means it's a lake or something. It's not a river. So these are the things which subconsciously hits me when I look at this image. uh, but a little disturbing fact is that when we think of a boat, or and then we see the patwar, I don't know what it is called in English. Chappu, we call it in local language. In refined Hindi, it as patwar. I don't know what they call it in English. So it's kept on the boat. The boat is still. That means it is docked somewhere, right? So very close, there would be a dock where it is tied. So these things come to my mind. But what I would like to make a change in this image, just slight change in this image, is that uh, sort of tilt it a little bit, because I think while clicking the image, the camera, somehow the frame looks a little pulling me towards this side, maybe because the directional line is taking attention from the center to the bottom left corner here. So it's slightly tilted. I would be very happy if I can align this edge of the boat, or this edge of the boat to the top and the bottom, and keep all three of them parallel. So I would love to do that. So there are few things we will experiment with, and then see how we can improve the quality of this image. So I'm just gonna close it and drag it in Photoshop and open it in its own file. Okay, so the very first attempt I'm going to do is, because I do not have a clear horizon or the ground level, so in this case it's gonna work like charm. So I simply need to use crop tool from the toolbar, yeah, and then go at the corner and then wait till the time the cursor changes into a rotational cursor, and then click and then just drag. Now as I do so, the best thing is right now the crop tool is really advanced. See how it is not actually rotating the canvas but just the image, and also giving me a grid so that I can take reference of the grid. I'll be taking reference from the grid and trying to make this line parallel to this grid. This is what I'm attempting for. Yeah, so it's almost parallel now. Okay, almost parallel. I don't want to overdo it, and I'm just gonna crop the image. The beauty of this crop too, because uh, in earlier version of Photoshop it was slightly difficult, but nowadays it is really advanced. Notice when I rotated the image, it is actually making sure that we do not have any transparent pixels outside the image, so which is a good thing. I'm just gonna hit enter to accept it, and look at this. uh, just one thing, one simple adjustment gives the image more calm. Now everything we talked about earlier, which I could sense, because I have a habit of looking at so many images, and I myself love to click images. So those things came to my mind, but those subconscious thoughts and not having clarity about those thoughts is going to confuse a layman or the end user. Now in this case, things are right where it should be, in terms of the visual perspective. Look at this frame now. The boat looks quite balanced. The water is still, the sky is clear, and we have a stagnant body of water. Maybe a slight wind is ongoing, so that's why in the distance I can see some ripple effect in the water. The shadow is very harsh. We have absolute clarity about the time where the image was shot. So yeah, it pretty much speaks for itself now. I'm gonna save this file and we will do a quick comparison of both the images. For saving the file, you all know it, Control Shift S. I just want to save it as a JPEG image, and I'm gonna change it the name to 3_1, and let's just boost the quality all the way to the 12 and say okay. Now these are the couple of images we need to compare in between. So I'm gonna just switch to the next image. Just have a good look at this image, let it sink in inside your imagination, and the moment I change it, see what changes in your imagination. So now look at this and look at this. Now again I'm saying, I am not implying that this is a wrong uh, image, or like in result I'm losing out this much of the detail here from the left hand side. So yeah, you can see that it's lost because of the crop thing. But what I had in mind, I just wanted to balance this entire composition, and that is how I started. I wanted to have that calming effect of this image. Okay, that was my um, objective. But if you really want this confusion, sometimes it may work for you, so you can have it in this way also. I just showed you a different approach, uh, but this is not the only right approach. There can be n number of ways how it can be manipulated. Let's move to the next image and then see. So in this you have learned how to use crop tool. Okay, it's a very easy tool, though I had to cover it. And then I'm gonna switch back to the images I have, and yeah, this is a very interesting image, and we must look at it for a while and then try and understand what went wrong and how it can be improved. The very first thing which comes to my mind after looking at this image is that this is my subject, nothing else matters actually. The bottles kept in the background is somehow stealing all the attention. At the very first glance, this is the area where my I look at this person, and then I see that uh, maybe it is neglected on purpose while clicking the image, or it happened because it was too close to the camera, I guess. uh, but accidentally this part came in focus and sort of ruined everything. So we can try definitely correcting these things. Uh, so we will attempt that. Okay. But before we do so, what could have we done while clicking the photograph? Let's talk about that for a while. Now this hand, half hand, one slice of a hand popping out from the left hand side looks weird, and then the most weird thing in this composition is this head. So it's sort of, just once you see this, you can't take your eyes away from it, because you start thinking about many different interpretations of this head. You know that this is head, but then again a thought comes in your mind, maybe it's a flower pot, maybe it is something, just a bunch of cotton, something different. So you keep on uh, thinking of fitting that piece of information into this entire image. This is what your brain is trying to do, trying to justify the composition. This is what we do. Um, so our brain has a tendency of completing the imagery. You'd realize it while looking at a watercolor spot painting, where artists on purpose leave some areas uh, undefined, and when you look at it, then your brain completes it, and then you feel the joy of also being a part of the creation process. And that is why it is so refreshing to look at a watercolor painting. Next time you witness a phenomena like that, please remember that we have discussed it while appreciating a photograph. And the same happens in the photograph as well. And look at the chaotic marketplace, and somehow this person looks as if it's not focused. Of course he has a job to do, but he's not focused, he's lost. Amidst this chaos, he is probably more concerned about something else. So we can't say that he's actually focusing on something, but he had something else to think of. And that's not focus, that's not distraction, that's simply being lost, uh, you know in his own thoughts. So how can we bring that quality in this image? Or let's say that I need to shift the focus back to the person. I'm not thinking as an artist anymore. Now I'm switching to a designer, because for appreciating a photograph, you have to be you have to think from an artist's point of view. But for editing a photograph, you always have to think from a designer's point of view, at least in this case. So let's just drag this image in Photoshop and see what we can do. Now there is no problem with the framing. Like, the framing could have been a lot better in case of in terms of the things it is excluding and including in the image and in the focus. But balance wise, the frame looks fine. And since we have a solid clue about the horizon, you follow the waistline of this person, you follow the waistline of this person, and both of them are parallel to each other. And it seems that this waistline is perpendicular to the ground. What I mean to say here, I just want you to show quickly. So I'm gonna enable the brush tool and then pick a highlight color, and then I'm gonna draw a few lines to show you. Let me just check on how is it going in the chat window. So I hope you can see and hear me clearly. Okay, I'll get back to the demo now. Well, so I'm going to make a new layer on top of it and then show you how, why I think that this image is balanced. So if I draw a waistline, so that would be like, okay, I need to increase the opacity of this brush and also boost up the hardness so that I can get sharp lines. So look at this waistline here, and then I'm going to draw a vertical line, and this is the ground plane, so perpendicular to the ground. Maybe just remove this much. Okay. Now those who are wondering how I'm able to draw straight lines It's a very simple trick. You just need to hold shift while doing it. So if the brush tool is enabled, you can hold shift, and then you can drag straight lines, vertical, horizontal, straight lines. Okay, all right. So this waistline is clear, and the relation of the waistline to the ground is clear, and based on that, if the waistline of this person and this person is parallel to each other, which it is in this case, if I draw a perpendicular line, you would see that this line is uh, parallel to this one, and this is parallel to the ground. So it tells me that the image is okay, it is balanced, you know. So just let's switch it off, this layer, we don't need it anymore, so I'm just gonna delete it. Yesterday's demonstration, I showed you how to use field blur and saturation, so I'm gonna use both the tricks here, but before I do so, I just want to get rid of this hand peeping out from the left. So I have a couple of choices. I'll just weigh out my options, that what details I actually need in the image and what details I can just remove. I don't want to harm the aspect ratio of the image. I would have cropped it like this, but in this case I'm losing the chaos at the background, which I don't want. I can just like for example, this detail is also not important, but if I push it up, I'll lose the aspect ratio. So in that case, maybe this bag is fine, but this, you know, amputated hand sort of doesn't give you a good feeling about this entire thing. So let's first thing, you know, try the easiest thing. I'm just going to create a copy of it so that we can compare in the end. Now, so I'm gonna use lasso, and it should be rasterized, then only the content aware fill is gonna work. And I'm going to make a selection around this, and press shift F5, and hoping that it yeah, work like a charm. See, the hand is gone now. Now those who have looked at it, this image, you know, earlier, they may, you know, feel something, that something changed, but those who are looking at it for the very first time, they wouldn't have a clue that what we are losing here. And yeah, it looks fine now. Maybe this small, you know, this part, this much part I can remove by using crop, just a little bit of it. This much correction is fine. Yep, see. Now the next thing is about this head. Let's try getting rid of this also. So first thing first, I'm gonna try out the content aware fill, and I'll use lasso again, and this time instead of polygonal, I'm gonna use the normal lasso. Let's just, that's a long shot actually. I don't know what to expect after applying this, but since it takes very less time, there is no harm in just, yeah, it looks fine, I think. Yep, it did the trick for us, and we don't care actually whether it is, you know, exactly the way it should be. It's just the part of the background. We are anyways going to blur it a little, you know, in the end. Now the next thing is to try to bring focus to this person. If I zoom in, it's actually, the detail is lost, some sort of motion blur is going on here. So we have lost quite a lot of detail here in this. So but you know, we must make an attempt and see how much we can improve. Okay, I'm really skeptic about it, because if I zoom in and hide the guides, you can do that by hitting Ctrl plus H. So if you are at a zoomed in state where you see these pixel grids, these are known as pixel grids. So if it is getting into the way of your view, then simply press Ctrl H on the keyboard and it's gonna hide it. Okay, so very less detail to work with. So accidentally I have formed couple of groups. So mm, okay, fine, so let's give it a go. Right now I'm just focusing on this person. I'm not worried about what is gonna go wrong with the background while bringing back the details in here. We will take care of that later on. So I'm going to make a convert this object into a smart object and make a copy of this one by saying Control J on the keyboard. Okay, and the technique which I'm gonna use here is actually utilized for correcting portraits, and the nice good quality portraits which you see, like amazing quality portraits which you see in beauty magazines and the movie posters, like really refined skin tones and skin texture which you see of celebrities, is actually achieved by this technique which I'm going to apply. uh, the technique is simple, but the amount of time it takes to refine those things, the manual hours, is quite high. But essentially this is what they do, and this is known as frequency separation. Okay, in advanced level of editing classes I do teach it in full detail, but right now I'm just gonna go to the basics of it and try to explain it to you. So basically we have two layers here, the same objects, two layers, and there is a filter which is called high pass, and which is listed under the others category and rarely utilized by people, but it's really effective. So if I choose high pass, it really turns the image into a really weird looking image. And then when I was a student I could never understood why somebody would want to have such an effect, because it clearly ruins the entire image. But the objective here is to, let's drop down the radius and then see how it is managing to capture the details. And if I zoom in, you see the images, it tells you where the image was sharp, and we can clearly see now it is giving us an unbiased opinion about what went wrong with the photograph. The primary subject is not in focus, but the rest of the things has so much of details. um, so yeah, so what I'll try to do here is bring back the details on the face of the person, or at least registered the details as much as possible, but I'm not gonna overdo it. So I'll keep it somewhere around 2.5 and then say okay. Okay, now the next thing I'm gonna do is change the blend mode of this layer to linear light. And as I do so, you must have noticed that the image looks much vibrant. What I actually did is that I extracted the details, and when I say the details, don't confuse with the color details. I'm talking about the edge details here, and that is what high pass registers actually. It registers. How do we understand that there is an edge in the image? It's very simple. Wherever we have maximum contrast, that will be registered as edges. So for example, this white and black, so maximum contrast white and black, maximum contrast, I should be saying dark and light actually. So wherever you see dark and light together in proximity, that is considered as contrast, and that will be registered as edges. And what high pass filter did here in this case is that it highlighted all those edges, and I have excluded all the information from that layer by using the linear light filter, and then excluded everything else but kept just the edges. So that is why the image has more details, because the edges are sharper now. Now the next thing is, it also has this once I have done this, now I need to apply, because okay, fine, I'm not gonna go into the details for now, because I don't want to really confuse you people. So I'll keep it light. So let's say that now the entire image is sharp and crisp, and I just need to blur out the things which I don't want to be in focus. Okay, so the way we did it in the last class, this is a smart object. Okay, and I can apply blur gallery, filled blur on it. So the moment I do it, the entire image almost looks as if it went back to the normal thing. Okay, uh, now uh, well, so I think while applying a smart filter, it throws away the preview. So I need to just right click on it and then convert this into a smart object before I apply the blur. So go to blur gallery, choose field blur. Okay, and then I can, okay, the pin is not visible here. I don't know where the pin is. Okay, maybe the pin is not shown here, so I'll just put a pin here in the center. No, it's acting weird now. Let's just cancel it out, and then we'll, oh, my bad actually. I'm trying to apply the field blur on this layer. This is wrong. This won't work. You have to ensure that the bottom layer is also clubbed along, so you have to make both of them, select both of them, and then right click and then choose convert to smart object. It's good that I made this mistake, otherwise you guys would have kept on wondering what went wrong. So now we have this smart object. I go to the filter menu, and then I choose blur gallery and then go to the field blur. Perfect. Now we are getting that blur effect applied on the entire screen, and we can set our pins. So obviously we don't want to blur out the details on the face here, so I'm gonna click on this, and okay, because I have pressed Ctrl H, that is the reason why it is also hiding the pins. So I'm going to remove the blur from here. Okay, still there is one left, and pull this pin out in the areas where I want the blur. Now at the background I don't want this much of detail, so I'm going to reduce the detail. Okay, and click here. Let's reduce the detail here also. I don't want that much in focus. Let's reduce the detail here, and this is the tricky area actually. So I'll put a pin here as well, and then try to go minimum blur. If the edges of this person goes a little blur, then it's fine, because that would replicate anti-aliasing. Someday I'll also speak about anti-aliasing, not now. So let's throw it. Understand that how I'm trying to gradually bring the blur into the image, and only targeting on the areas where I don't want the user to the viewer to pay more attention. So this is farther away from the camera compared to this one. That is why because it is inside the shop, so here the amount of blur is gonna increase compared to this area. So a little bit of blur, but not more than not more than this place. Let's just pull this away a little from the hair, and then for here I am just gonna go as sharp as we can. Okay, here also in the hand I'll put a pen, go as sharp as I can, and here for the box, this detail, I'm going to blur it out just a little enough that it is not important. Here also I'm going to apply some amount of blur. Okay, now I think this edge is gaining too much of attention, so I'm gonna put a pin here and then just apply some blur to it, and maybe tweak it up a little more. It's far away in the background. I don't want to lose this edge, by the way, so I just gonna push this up, and then yeah, this much is fine. Now I'm going to say okay, a lot can be done, more than this can be done, but right now I'm just leaving it up to this much and say okay. All right, so yep, we can always play around with the saturation as well, but I think this looks more natural and looks as if the photographer did not do a mistake, and it's a wise decision to have the foreground, the main person, the main subject in focus, and sort of generate depth of field by isolating the main subject from the background. So if I hide this and then compare it with the original image, you will see the difference. See, and now see. So I'm just gonna make it full screen, and then we are going to quickly toggle through the original one and the result. So this is the result and this is the original one. Notice how the person is in focus now. And yeah, now another interesting thing which we can do here is apply a little bit of noise. That is an artifact which comes because of the ISO, rather I should say the light sensitivity, and how camera is treating that light sensitivity. But that will give you this right now, a trained eye would try to reason out why the inconsistency in the there is an inconsistency in the blur amount. A trained eye, not a normal person, would be able to realize that. So basically, again it's gonna get a little complex, so I'm just gonna cut through it and then show you what should be done to just sort of put a fine coat to it. I'm going to go to the filter menu, and we are still working with the smart object, and I'm going to go to the noise section and choose add noise. Now those who are wondering that how adding noise can actually improve the image, now just have a look. I have added quite a lot amount of noise here, and Gaussian noise and a monochromatic version, so that it doesn't affect the color of it, but you now see the entire composition is sort of coming through. We understand that there is a filter applied to it. At the first look it seems as if there is a filter applied to it, but the composition is making much sense than earlier it was. I'm going to pull it down somewhere around 1.5. You can also type in the value yourself if you want. And yeah, it's not a drastic change, but for the demo sake of purpose, I'm gonna boost it up to 2.5. Okay, if you are gonna print it, I think 1.5 would be the right value. Let's say okay, and now just compare with the original image. Now this was the composition earlier, and after editing this is what we have managed to achieve. Okay, so I'm going to quickly export this file, and we will move to the next image. So I'm going to export it, edited. No, I don't want to save it as a, okay, let me just save it as a PSD file also. Edited, and one JPEG file I'm gonna also save. So there, only in the demo folder. I'll upload this in the Google Classroom post, so that you people can study the PSD file and see what we did. Those who are worrying that how I can go inside the smart object, you have done that exercise earlier. So if you double click on this, you can get to see inside what is going on. So I have applied a high pass filter. You can close this. So I'll be uploading the PSD file as well as the before and after image. Okay, so let's just close this one. Let's see what is going in there. How you erase the extra line. Prachi, I'm definitely going to show you how I erase that extra line. I just use the eraser tool, by the way, but since you asked, I'm gonna show it to you. Yeah, so this is for Prachi. Now wait a second. Well, so I was using brush tool to create those lines. Okay, so you can do this. Now since you have asked, I would want to show more. Actually, you can hold shift and then click anywhere, and it's gonna take up the last point where the line was left and then join it with that. So it's not just going horizontal or vertical, it is also about going in any direction possible. You just need to hold shift and then click at the point where you would want to join this line. So let's say that, for instance, if I want to join it here, so I just gonna hold shift and then click here, hold shift. Now I want to drop vertically here, so click, hold shift and click, hold shift and click. Now I can click here, hold shift, and then simply drag it down. I can keep on holding shift leave the mouse and then continue in this direction. And if I want to connect this point with this one, I can simply hold shift and then click on this one. Okay, now about erasing. Eraser also works same like brush tool. So I simply switch to E, hit E on the keyboard to enable the brush eraser tool, and let's increase the size of it a little bit. And I can simply click on this point and hold shift and then click on this point to get rid of this much. If I want to do horizontally, erase horizontally, I simply need to hold shift and then click, and then I can erase horizontally also. I hope that answers your query. So I'm just going to close it, say no. I'm just gonna again have a look if there is any more query. There isn't. Okay, perfect. So guys, if you have any questions regarding the last demo, just try to put it in here and I'll try to address them as well. Okay, put your queries right here. If not possible in this video, I'm gonna take all those queries in the next video or supporting videos which I'll be adding into the comment sections. Let's go back and then look at the third image. Couple of images we have edited. Okay, I'm just gonna say this original. Okay, so we have original edited and the PSD file of it. Okay, out of these set of images, the one which I really loved is this one. So who clicked this image? Now if you are listening to me right now, just pat yourself on the back and then mention it in the comment that you have clicked this image. This is a lovely composition, and the whole dynamics of the visual really forces you to think. And when I look at this image, I think, and that is one of the qualities which is really admiring about any visual. There are visuals which does not make you think but just tells you something. If I see a picture of a mango, I wouldn't be thinking about the mango. Yeah, obviously it will come to our imagination, but I wouldn't be contemplating about my thoughts in relation to the mango or just an object or an article. So sometimes the image gives you an information, but sometimes it demands your thought process, your feeling. So when I look at it, I immediately feel very empathetic about the person who is there in the composition, and straight away it connects me with my childhood, where I could imagine my mom cooking something nice for me. And in very adverse situations, I can sense that probably the light is out, and there is one single source of light apart from the gas stove which is lit, and what to say, a little bit of tilt is there, and that is only because of this line. It's not actually perpendicular to the top of the page and the bottom of the page. So that is something which is which says that this composition is slightly unbalanced, but I think that is adding to the quality of the image in this case. If I try to straighten it out, it would kill somewhat the originality and the what do you say that there is a word for that, candidness of this image, and it would look as if there is a planned a photographer has clicked it. The best thing about this image is that it has been clicked by somebody who really wants to save this, preserve this as a memory, and later on rejoice it. And he does or she does values the person who is in the composition. So I wouldn't even dare to touch this image. I would just let it be like this. It's more like a it's original, and I should not be touching it. No matter how much I try, I could just remove this wire to make it look fancy, but polishing this image is not a good idea. Definitely not a good idea. I love the way the what do you say that we call it, chalni, channi, jo bhi bolna hai. So that's casting shadow on the wall. I really love that. I love the way the knobs of this drawer is The cupboard is casting shadow on the top, you know, and in the middle there is a very motherly, figure, which is sort of having joy even in the adverse condition, because he knows that what she's doing is going to make a lot of loved one very happy about it. So good job, good job, very nice. Let me know who clicked this image in the comment section. So I'll move to the next image, and this one is again absolute beauty, because it shows that how amidst the chaos, a creature uh, which is not considered to be as intelligent as a human, it's so calm. And maybe I can feel more you know associated with this image, because the time is like that, and in this um, in the middle of this whole epidemic thing going on, uh, it really makes us think about what would be going in the mind of this street dog, who is just calmly sitting in the middle of the street, and people are rushing on either of the side. So when I look at this image, it seems as if he's trying to ask something. He's just, asking very politely, asking, maybe not politely. He's like, he understood the irony why things are, happening the way it is, and still, he knows it, but he wants us to basically realize that, guys, you did something horrible. Uh, yeah. So definitely, apart from the philosophy of the image, there are things which could be done, like this stray leg here is just pulling unwanted attention away from the composition and not contributing that much. So it's like a equation which we need to balance visually, where we see the elements which are not contributing to the composition as much as they are sort of shouting out for their own existence. So we try to balance these things out. So I think not much needs to be done in this image, because I wouldn't want to get away with this. This may look like a strange element, but this sort of gives it a frame. So I wouldn't delete this one, I wouldn't remove this one. But here, since we already have too much happening on the top right corner, this extra piece is not helping, and it's also challenging the individuality of these couple of objects, like the pair of shoes. So white, we don't want that confusion. Okay, so the answer is very simple, just a crop will work. I'm gonna move to the next image. Okay, again this one is I love the title, which says bhed bakri. I didn't say any bhed though. In this image I don't see any sheep, all of them are goats, I believe. Maybe it would be there at the back, but in the front it's all goat. So yeah, now in this image, let's open it in quickly in Photoshop. There's nothing much to say in about the composition, because at the first look I thought ki this composition would have been more complete if these two legs wouldn't have been chopped at the bottom of the screen, and the face is also kind of going away from the screen. So but then I thought, if you could contain all of these in frame, that would have looked very unnatural. So it's like this is something which is actually showing that there is a movement, and they are moving. Even if it is a still image, I can sense that all of them are moving, they're not standing still. If they would have been inside the frame, it would have a a sort of feel that all of them are just posing for the camera, and that would have been not nice. um, okay, so something which is really bothering me is this wire, and sort of ruining this entire frame. So let's see how we can first tackle that. It's very easy. You guys must be thinking, sir is again going to use content aware fill, but this time I'm not gonna use content aware fill. So what I'll do here is I'll use healing brush tool. Now it's an amazing thing, and mostly while working with portraits and up close shots, we use this healing brush tool for removing splotches and pimples from the skin. uh, Maybe tomorrow I'll show you how to to do those things, but here I can simply click on this. Okay, we need to define a source point. I think I have selected the healing brush. In this case I should have selected spot healing brush, and even though it is not a spot, it's like a series of spots that is creating this line. So I'm just gonna click here and then just drag it along the path and see. Yep, did the trick. Remove the line for me. Works like a charm, leaves no trace at all. Yeah, that's why I love this tool. See, gone. Okay, I'm not gonna save this. I just showed you how to use healing brush, spot healing brush. Healing brush demands, let's say that healing brush I want to use, and it's a really interesting thing. um, let's say that I don't want or maybe I want extra patches of greenery here, so I can use the healing brush tool, and what I can do, I can hold alt on the keyboard to source out the sample from here, and then simply increase the size of the brush and then paint here, and you see uh, how it is intelligently selected this area and then copied it. So if I keep on doing it, eventually I'll be able to expand the greenery to these regions. So you have to multiple times do it. Now if you are really interested in seeing what magic the healing brush can do, I'm gonna show you a work of mine where I have used extensively the healing brush. Boot house, it's a time-lapse video of a photo manipulation I did. So you can simply type in boot house avriti. Well, okay, I misspelled it. So if you type boot house avriti, you get to see this video. I'm just gonna run it for you. What an irony, I'm showing YouTube inside YouTube live. Funny. So look at this thing, and this entire thing is this composition is created by using these images. This is the boot actually, which is being transformed into a surrealistic sort of composition, and I have used for creating these patches, these moss patches, I have used healing brush a lot in this. So just have a look, it will give you a sense how we can use healing brush. Let's close this, come back to the Photoshop. Yeah, color correction and all can be done. It has a warm sort of feel to it, and I wouldn't want to take that away, because if I do that, the sky is going to overpower the earth, and in this case I think this is a story which has more to say about the earth than the sky. Okay, so that is all for this image. I'm just close this and let's move to what we are left with. Okay, I think couple of images or 3 images. By the way, I love this one also, very beautiful. And of course when you go close to a sea, all the snaps are beautiful. And why this is actually beautiful, because it is balanced, also balanced not only in terms of colors but also in terms of the way the weight is being distributed. They say in the composition, rule of thirds is something which you learn as a designer in the beginning of your academics, and you can see the rule of third is being implemented. Maybe it's knowingly or unknowingly, but to a perfect degree the rule of third is being implemented here. So if you make the entire vertical divide into 3 parts, then you have to ensure that 2 parts are being assigned either to the sky or to the ground. In this case 2 part is assigned to the sky, and that is why it gives you a sense of freedom, it gives you a sense of space. It's more calming. But if I would have given 2 parts to the land or the sea, in this case, if the horizon could have been sent here, then it would give you a sense of what do you say, that uneasiness, that claustrophobic feel you would get. Comparatively, it would have looked more sad, less free. So that sort of vibe it would have given you. And if you would have balanced this right in the middle, the composition would have been boring, because both the things would have contradicted itself, each other. So yeah, in this image maybe a slight color correction, let's just quickly see. And this is a trick which is going to save a lot and a lot of time, so look at this image now. I'm just gonna make it full screen. Just have a good look at the image, and what I'm gonna do is press Ctrl Shift L on the keyboard, and immediately it color corrects it. And actually the casting which you had probably had, the person who clicked the image, I would like to discuss this image with you at the moment when you clicked it. And was it like this, or the way you see it in the photograph? Did you edit it or not? We will have a discussion on it. But this is something which is called auto color correct, auto levels. And then I'm gonna say Control Shift B. Let's go back few. I don't want to use shortcuts. I want to show you what I did actually. So it has this red color casting because the center is dominant with red color. So I'm gonna go to the image menu and then choose adjustment. And from the not the adjustment, we have these three options here: auto tone, auto contrast, and auto color. So let's click on auto color. See, so it is trying to take away that red casting. Understand what is changing. If I say Control Z, do you really think that this red area is actually affecting this? The person who actually shot this image would have witnessed it firsthand, that whether the red color was present here in this sky or not, or whether this looks more natural or this one does. Okay, so I leave it up to the person. But it's not about making the image look the way it was. It is more like creating a nice feel from the image. So let's choose auto contrast, and hardly much change. So I think contrast wise it is doing good. Anyway, so we can instead of relying upon these auto features, we can also put our own adjustment layers, such as, let's go with curves first, levels. And what I want here is I want the dark regions to become slightly more dark, the midtones to have more light in it, and the highlights to go a little more brighter. Okay, if I switch off this adjustment, you will see the dullness of the image is slightly taken away and it looks more vibrant. But this is not wrong. I'm just showing you that this can be done. This is perfect, but these can be done. So levels adjustment, in fact in the next class we will see in detail what these adjustments do. So primarily I'm gonna cover levels, curves, exposure is just a tad of it, a little bit of it. So we'll see vibrance and difference between vibrance and saturation. Actually it's something which we need to look at. Then color balance, black and white, photo filter, channel mixer is way advanced for you guys right now, and color lookup also we can skip it for now. Maybe I'll show you how to apply color lookups, but I don't promise you to get into the details of it, because it would take a lot of time. Well, so there is something called gradient map for creating posters and all, and getting very dramatic effect. This is used. Threshold is something which is also used a lot. Posterize, you must be knowing about this filter. Everybody who works with Photoshop is in love with posterize. Like, not now, but I guess a decade earlier people used to love posterize. Then we have selective color. Now in this case, let's just try selective color. So I'm gonna click on selective color, and here what I can do is target a particular color. So it is red is by default selected. I can switch between any of the colors, and since I want to target the red here, I'm going to target the red and increase the value or decrease the value of. So basically when you see red selected here, see every color which you see here is a composite of CMYK or RGB depending upon the color profile. This image is from whichever color profile it comes from. these components are gonna be there. So CMYK. Okay, so the reasons where we have red, how much cyan we have, ideally the cyan channel is not gonna affect the red so much, but if I reduce, you will see that cyan is completely taken away from the reasons where the red is dominant, that I do not want, because cyan is counterbalancing the red. But magenta, if I increase it, you will see that the red will get more dramatic and more pinkish. If I remove, magenta is something which is controlling the red a lot. It completely removes the red color from the image. So I can adjust this slider. I'll just push it up a little bit, just a little bit. I think +10 is fine. And then we have yellow. Remove it, add it. I think I want to add it a little bit, gives me more oranges sort of color. So I'm gonna push it again somewhere close to 10. And then black, definitely, so I'm gonna push it up a little, just a little, somewhere maybe +2 or 3. Very minimal correction is needed. And if I switch off the selective color, let's have a look at what changes. So very minute sort of impact it has. Remember, a lot of time people think that I did so much and only a very, even the difference is not noticeable enough for me. So why did I do that? So think of it like this in correcting colors. If a user can see the image is color corrected, that means you have failed as an editor. So this should not be able to perceive whether you have done some sort of color correction or not. That's the first thing while editing images. I'm gonna quickly roll over to okay. Oh, Mrityunjay clicked that image. Thank you so much for revealing yourself. It is really nice. And guys, I want you guys to do some peer reviews. I have seen that let me take you to that page. Yeah, I have seen Tejasvi did a lot of peer reviews, and I really appreciate you, Tejasvi, for giving your valuable comment. Okay, I have seen Tejasvi's comment in a few posts, and there are a lot of people who have not posted their images yet. Please do that. I'm not gonna mark you on the basis of that, so there is no risk of losing marks, and it should not take a lot of time. Also, you can do it from your mobile as well. So there is no harm in doing that. So do that. You will feel a sense of accomplishment in that. Also, the last exercise which we did. Yesterday I showed you a little bit of how you could improve an image by manipulating the focus by using the field blur. Today also I showed you that. I also showed you content aware, and I also showed you crop tool. So whatever you have learned today, apply all those things. And then I want the next assignment. I'm gonna post one assignment today. One image, the original one, and the result image. So before and after, the way I did it for this image, original and edited. So this is the original, this is the edited version, but this was a lot less of a work. I think you should take up some complex, if not complex, but at least an intermediate level of complexity you should choose for now. Something like this would work. So edited and original, so before and after, and also the PSD file. So these 3 files I want you guys to post on the Google Classroom. I'm going to post these, and then you can take that as a sample post and then follow that also. Okay, so I'll post an assignment. You just have to submit those assignments. Let's go back to the okay, I think we are done with it, and couple of more images which I have downloaded. I like this one also quite a lot. Good, the variety of leaves and how the bottom is completely absolutely dark and contrasting, and still despite having just black and orange dominance, how the blue color, the dark blue or slate blue color is sort of gradually showing the dominance, and showing that in just a matter of minute I'm gonna rule over this entire composition. That is the story it tells me. No matter how bright you are, um, your end is close. Maybe it's a very sadistic way of approaching this, but that's me. You may think of it as a ray of hope or something, I don't know, but this was my interpretation of the image. And there's nothing wrong in this because the night is also beautiful. However, again, these lines are showing the presence of human, because it does not look natural, and we are so accustomed of looking at wires every time we look at up at the sky, that it sort of ruins us with its presence everywhere. So I would have edited this image by just removing the wires, and that is it. Rest everything is fine. um, that brings us to the last image. I intentionally did not keep it to the last, but it happens to just fall at the end of the queue. So I love this image. I love dogs, first thing. um, but uh, the nose is being chopped off from a compositional element which is not of that importance. So next time you click a photograph, keep that in mind. These things can be avoided. Now, no matter how much we try, we can never build up that nose, that this information which was there present in front of you, you have missed it. The dog was sitting idle, like he's not running, he's like happy and calm, I believe. So you could have moved a little bit, the camera found an interesting angle, but you just settled with this image without realizing that there is no fix to this. So avoid these sort of situations in the next um, endeavors of yours. Okay, so having said that, I would conclude today's lesson. I hope this was more intuitive and effortless for you guys to just watch me and then uh, just learn. But I would really appreciate to see more of your comments here, because I don't see much of problems being posted, or either maybe I'm quite clear on what I'm telling and what I'm showing. In that case, I would really feel obliged. But I know that you have questions. So the moment I am gonna end the stream, you would not be able to put comments in here, but where the video is gonna get uploaded, there is a comment section below, and you can put all your queries there. I would love to see as many as problems you have, maybe in relation with what I have showed in the video, or maybe something which you have encountered during your experimentation. So just post them. On the basis of them, I'm gonna sort of plan the next class, which is tomorrow 11:30. So see you guys. That is all from my side. Signing off. Bye bye. Have a good day.